There is a city in the heart of the Americas that, by every reasonable measure, should not exist. It sits inside a closed mountain basin, more than 2,000 meters above the sea. It rises on the soft bed of a vanished lake. It shakes when the earth shifts beneath it. It has burned. It has been conquered. It has been buried, rebuilt, and buried again. And every morning, 22 million people wake up inside it. This is Mexico City, CDMX, the largest Spanish-speaking metropolis on Earth, the largest city in North America, and one of the oldest continuously inhabited capitals in the world. Long before Madrid sent its ships, before London paved its first stone street, an empire was already rising here. The Mexica built an island city on a lake and called it Tenochtitlan. When Spanish soldiers first crossed the mountains in 1519, they wrote in their journals that they could not believe what they were seeing. Some thought it was a dream. 5 centuries later, travelers still write the same thing. But what most travelers see is only the surface. Beneath the modern streets lies an Aztec capital still being uncovered. Above the rooftops rise the same volcanoes the Aztec priests once climbed, and ringing the city, within a few hours' drive, sits a constellation of wonders that most visitors never reach. A pyramid larger by volume than any ever built in Egypt, hidden under a hill. A canyon where rivers run hot from the mountain. A silver town suspended in the clouds. A forest where, every winter, the sky itself turns orange with the wings of returning butterflies. This is the journey through the capital that refuses to be forgotten, and the hidden world that surrounds it. To understand Mexico City, you have to understand that it is not one city. It is many cities, stacked on top of one another, each one rising from the bones of the last. And the first of them is still down there, just beneath your feet. Mexico City was not built on land, it was built on water. In the year 1325, the Mexica founded their capital on a small island in the middle of a vast lake. Legend says they were guided here by a vision. They were told to build their city wherever they saw an eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a serpent. They saw it on the surface of Lake Texcoco, and so they built, on water. They drove wooden piles into the lake bed. They created floating islands of mud and reeds called chinampas. They engineered causeways and aqueducts and canals. Within 2 centuries, Tenochtitlan had grown into one of the largest cities on Earth. When Spanish soldiers arrived in 1519, archaeologists estimate the city held more than 200,000 people, larger at the time than any city in Spain. Then it fell. The Spanish drained Lake Texcoco for centuries. They built their colonial capital directly on top of the conquered city, using the same stones, the same foundations. The Mexico City of today rises on layer upon layer of buried civilizations. This is why the buildings tilt, the cathedral leans, the Palace of Fine Arts has sunk meters into the soft ground. Engineers fight a constant battle against the lake that is no longer there but refuses to forget. In 1978, Electrical workers digging a trench in the heart of downtown struck something they were not supposed to find. 2 meters below the modern street, the Great Pyramid of the Mexica was still down there. The Templo Mayor, the Sacred Heart of Tenochtitlan, waiting almost 500 years to be remembered. And every year, the buried city reveals more of itself. The Aztec city sleeps beneath the stones, but just a few meters above it, 3 civilizations argue with each other across a single open square. The Zocalo is one of the largest public squares in the world. A vast stone plaza, big enough to swallow a small village. On its eastern edge stands the Palacio Nacional. On its northern edge, the Metropolitan Cathedral, the largest cathedral in the Americas. Beneath its southern flank, hidden in plain sight, lie the ruins of the Templo Mayor. Three civilizations meet here, in a single open space. Aztec foundations, Spanish power, the modern Mexican Republic. They have been arguing with each other for 500 years. The cathedral is the place to begin. It took 250 years to build. Construction began in 1573 and continued until 1813. Spanish architects laid its first stones directly on top of the Templo Mayor's sacred precinct. They used stones taken from the pyramid itself. The conquerors wanted to make the meaning of their victory unmistakable. But the lakebed beneath the cathedral is soft. Over the centuries, the building has slowly sunk into the ground. Walk inside, and you can feel it. The floor tilts beneath your feet. The chandeliers no longer hang straight. Across the plaza stands the Palacio Nacional, the official seat of Mexican government. But for travelers, the building's true treasure is what hangs on the inner walls. In the late 1920s, the Mexican government commissioned the painter Diego Rivera to cover the staircase and corridors with a single sweeping mural. Rivera worked on it for more than 2 decades. The mural tells the entire history of Mexico, from the Aztec marketplaces to the Spanish conquest to the revolutions of the modern era. It captures something the rest of Centro Histórico whispers but never quite says aloud. That this city is not a Spanish city, and it is not an Aztec city. It is something else, something that belongs only to itself. A few blocks west stands the Casa de los Azulejos, a 16th century palace whose entire facade is covered in blue and white Talavera tile from Puebla. This is the rhythm of Centro Histórico. Every doorway opens into another century. Centro Histórico has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1987. More than 1,500 buildings of historical significance lie within its boundaries. Centro Histórico carries the weight of empires, but just to the west, a neighborhood rebuilt itself from rubble and quietly became the cultural heart of a global city. Cross the Paseo de la Reforma, the great avenue that cuts through Mexico City like a Parisian boulevard, and you enter a different capital. The streets narrow, The traffic slows, the trees take over. This is Roma Norte, the neighborhood that more than any other defines the modern soul of CDMX. Roma was laid out in 1903, planned around graceful plazas and stone fountains. Wealthy families built mansions in the European style of the era, wide boulevards, wrought iron balconies, stained glass. The neighborhood looked deliberately like a piece of Paris transplanted into the Mexican plateau. Then came September of 1985. An earthquake measuring 8.0 on the Richter scale struck Mexico City just after 7 in the morning. Thousands died. Entire blocks of Roma collapsed. For years afterward, the neighborhood stood half empty. Wealthy families left. Rents collapsed. Buildings sat abandoned. And then slowly, something began to happen. Artists moved in, writers, designers, independent restaurants opened in the cracked Art Nouveau shells, galleries took over abandoned print shops, tiny bookstores returned. By the early 2000s, Roma had become something it had never been before, the cultural heart of a global city. Today, walking through Roma Norte feels like walking through a love letter to the slow life. Coffee roasters next to centenarian houses, vintage clothing shops in former mansions, tiny taquerias beside fashion boutiques. On Sundays, the streets fill with families, children on bicycles, couples sharing pan dulce on stone benches in Plaza Rio de Janeiro. The neighborhood has also become the heart of Mexico City's culinary renaissance. Some of the most acclaimed restaurants in Latin America are here. So are the smallest fondas, family-run kitchens where comida corrida is served at lunch for the price of a coffee in Europe. Roma Norte is also where the conversation about modern CDMX is happening loudest. The arrival of remote workers and digital nomads in recent years has driven up rents. Longtime residents speak with pride about what their neighborhood has become and with worry about what may be slipping away. Roma was rebuilt by its artists, but just one avenue west, another neighborhood traces, in its very streets, the shape of a vanished racetrack from a century ago. If Roma Norte is the soul of CDMX, Condesa is its garden. The neighborhood begins where Roma ends, separated by Avenida Insurgentes, the longest avenue in Latin America. Cross it, and the trees deepen, the streets curl, the pace somehow slows even further. Condesa has one of the strangest histories in the city. Its central avenue, Avenida Amsterdam, is a perfect oval, 3 kilometers long. It traces exactly the outline of a horse racing track that once ran here in the early 20th century. The track is gone, the shape remains. Walk along it long enough and you realize you have, without meaning to, made a slow circle through the heart of the neighborhood. The buildings of Condesa lean into Art Deco rather than the European stone of Roma. Curved facades, geometric tiles, the architecture of the 1930s and 1940s, when Mexico City was a city looking forward rather than backward. At the heart of the neighborhood lies Parque Mexico. Once part of the same horse racing complex, the park is now one of the most beloved public spaces in the capital. Families, dog walkers, lovers on benches, joggers in the early morning when the air is still cool. In the spring, the jacaranda trees burst into violet bloom and the entire park glows. Condesa is where Mexico City exhales. The cafes along Avenida Michoacán fill with writers and freelancers. The bookstores stock everything from Octavio Paz to Roberto Bolaño. The tortillerias open at 6 in the morning. The smell of fresh masa drifts through the streets before sunrise. But Condesa, like Roma, has been transformed by recent waves of new arrivals. Apartment prices have climbed. The neighborhood that was once a quiet refuge has become one of the most desirable addresses in the city. Locals have mixed feelings. The energy has changed. Whether that change is welcomed or resented depends on who you ask and how long their family has lived here. Still, in the early hours of the day before the cafes open, Parque Mexico belongs only to its joggers and its dogs. The trees catch the first light, the fountains run, the city breathes. But to find the oldest soul of Mexico City, you have to travel further south, where the cobblestones return. In the south of Mexico City, at the end of a long ride through the southern boroughs, the asphalt gives way to cobblestones, the traffic thins, the trees deepen. This is Coyoacán, and it does not feel like part of the same city. Coyoacán was a separate village long before Mexico City swallowed it. Its name in Nahuatl means place of the coyotes. Hernán Cortés briefly made it his headquarters after the fall of Tenochtitlan, while the Spanish rebuilt the conquered Aztec capital to the north. 500 years later, the village feel is still here. Painted houses, stone fountains, churches with mango trees in the courtyard. The two central plazas, Plaza Hidalgo and Jardín Centenario, sit side by side beneath enormous old trees. On weekends they fill with families, vendors selling churros and esquites, marimba players, balloon sellers, children chasing pigeons across the cobblestones. It is impossible to walk through Coyoacán quickly. The town will not let you. And on a quiet corner of Calle Londres, behind a deep blue wall, stands the most visited house in Mexico. La Casa Azul, the Blue House, the home of Frida Kahlo. Frida was born here in 1907. She lived here for most of her life. She died here in 1954. The house is a museum now, preserved almost exactly as she left it, her brushes still resting on the easel, her wheelchair beside the bed, her ashes inside a pre-Columbian urn on the dresser. Visitors who come here often arrive expecting a museum and leave feeling that they have been somewhere closer to a shrine. A short walk away stands the house where the Russian revolutionary Leon Trotsky lived in exile before his assassination in 1940. Coyoacán has for a century been the neighborhood where Mexico City keeps its dreamers and its outcasts. The Mercado de Coyoacán, just off the Central Plaza, is one of the great food markets of CDMX. Tostadas piled with shredded chicken or octopus, aguas frescas in every color, mole sold by weight from family stalls. Coyoacán still moves at the pace of an older Mexico. The volcanoes are visible on clear days. The streets stay quiet long after the rest of the city has woken. But to truly understand how this city was built, you have to leave dry land behind. You have to follow the canals south, to the last surviving fragment of the lake the Mexico once called home. In the far south of Mexico City, beyond the last metro stations, the streets begin to give way to water. This is Xochimilco. The name means place where flowers grow in Nahuatl, and it is the only place in the modern city where you can still see what Tenochtitlan really looked like, because Xochimilco is the last surviving piece of the Great Lake, the last fragment of a world that the Spanish spent 4 centuries draining away. A network of canals winds through the borough. They are not decorative. They are functional, ancient, and still very much alive. For more than 1,000 years, farmers in this region have grown food on chinampas, floating islands of mud, woven reeds and lake silt. They are anchored to the lakebed by the roots of willow trees, planted at the corners. The Aztecs perfected this technique. At the height of Tenochtitlan, thousands of chinampas surrounded the city. The system was so productive that some agricultural historians consider it one of the most efficient forms of farming ever developed. A single chinampa could yield up to 7 harvests in a year. Today, almost 200 kilometers of these canals still survive. Farmers still tend the chinampas, lettuce, spinach, cilantro, herbs that find their way into the markets and kitchens of the city above. UNESCO recognized the site as a World Heritage Location in 1987. For travelers, Xochimilco is best known for the trajineras. These are flat-bottomed wooden boats, painted in shocking pinks and yellows and blues, each one named for a woman or a saint: Maria, Lupita, Carmen. They glide through the canals, poled along by boatmen who have done this work for generations. But there is a darker side to this place. Deep in the canals, on a small island, hangs one of the strangest places in Mexico. La Isla de las Muñecas, the island of the dolls. For decades, a man named Don Julian Santana hung discarded dolls from the trees. He believed he was honoring the spirit of a young girl who had drowned nearby. He died in 2001. The dolls remain, hundreds of them. In the early morning, before the trajineras fill with music, the canals are silent. You can hear birds, the dip of the pole into water. A farmer harvesting greens from a chinampa as his ancestors did 1,000 years ago. The lake is gone, But here, in this corner of the city, the lake is also still here. But the wonders of this region do not end at the city limits. Beyond the volcanoes, another world begins. A world of pyramids older than the Aztecs themselves, of mountain towns suspended in cloud, of canyons that breathe steam from beneath the earth. And the first of these wonders rises just 1 hour to the northeast. Drive an hour northeast from Mexico City. The skyline of the capital fades behind you. The valley opens. Cornfields, maguey plants, the high blue sky of the Mexican plateau. And then, in the distance, two enormous shapes begin to rise from the plain. This is Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and between them an avenue more than 2 kilometers long, stretching toward the horizon like a runway built for gods. When the Aztecs first walked into this valley in the 14th century, the city was already a ruin, already abandoned, already ancient. They did not know who had built it. They did not know what had happened to its people, but they knew it was sacred. The Aztecs gave it the name we still use today, Teotihuacan, the place where the gods were created. Teotihuacan was built between roughly 100 BCE and 250 CE. At its peak, around the year 400, archaeologists estimate it housed more than 125,000 people. It was one of the 6 largest cities in the world at the time, larger than Rome would be when Rome fell. And then, around the year 550, something happened. The city was burned. Its great structures were ritually destroyed. Its inhabitants vanished from the historical record. We still do not know who they were. We do not know what language they spoke. The Aztecs simply called the central road that runs between the pyramids the Avenue of the Dead. The Pyramid of the Sun is the 3rd largest pyramid in the world by volume. 65 meters tall, built without metal tools, without the wheel, without draft animals, built by hand, by people whose names we will never know. But beneath the smaller pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, archaeologists have made one of the most haunting discoveries in modern Mesoamerican history. In 2003, a sinkhole opened at the base of the temple. When researchers descended, they found a tunnel that had been deliberately sealed roughly 1800 years ago. What they found inside changed our understanding of the city forever. Jade figurines from Guatemala, seashells from the Caribbean, pyrite mirrors believed to be portals to other realms, and, in 2015, something no one expected. Liquid mercury, pooled in chambers deep beneath the pyramid, 1800 years old, still shimmering. Archaeologists believe it represented a sacred lake of the underworld. Today, more than 4 million people visit Teotihuacan every year. At sunrise, hot air balloons drift over the Avenue of the Dead. But Teotihuacan is only one of the wonders that ring the capital. To the south, another sacred site rises, smaller, stranger, perched at the edge of a cliff. An hour south of Mexico City, the highway begins to climb. Then it descends, sharply, into a valley so green it looks painted. This is Tepoztlán, a small town of cobbled streets and red-tiled roofs, ringed by sheer cliffs of volcanic rock. Above the town, on a peak nearly 400 meters above the valley floor, sits a tiny pyramid. To reach it, you have to climb. The hike is short but punishing. A steep stone path winds through pine and cedar, switching back and forth up the cliff face. It takes most travelers an hour to reach the top. The air thins, the trees give way to bare rock. And then the path opens onto a flat platform, and the world below disappears beneath your feet. This is the Pyramid of El Tepoztlán. It was built in the late 13th century by the Tlahuica people, dedicated to Tepoztlán, the god of pulque. Pulque is an ancient fermented drink made from the maguey plant, sacred to Mesoamerican civilizations long before the Spanish arrived. Local legend goes much further back. According to Nahuatl tradition, Tepoztlán is the birthplace of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, the god of wind and learning. Some Mexican families still come here to pour offerings on the rocks. But Tepoztlán's appeal is not only religious. The town has been a destination for poets, writers, and bohemians for nearly a century. In the 1930s, anthropologists came to study its surviving indigenous traditions. By the 1960s, foreigners were buying small houses in the hills. Today, on weekends, Mexico City families pour into the town to escape the capital's altitude and noise. The Sunday market is the heart of it. Stalls of mole, tlacoyos, an ancient corn flatbread stuffed with beans or nopal cactus, itacate, a local triangular tortilla served only here. Copal incense smoke drifts from the stalls of healers selling herbs and charms. The town has been designated a Pueblo Mágico, a Mexican government recognition given to towns of exceptional cultural value. There are now nearly 200 Pueblos Mágicos across the country. Tepoztlán was among the first. Travelers who stay overnight often speak of the strange peace that settles over the valley after dark. The cliffs glow under starlight. The town below falls quiet. Locals say the energy of this place is what has drawn people here for 1,000 years. But Mexico's wonders do not end with mountain villages. To the southeast, the largest pyramid ever built by human hands waits in disguise, hidden under a hill. Two hours southeast of Mexico City, on the other side of the volcanoes, lies the colonial city of Puebla. Travelers who arrive here often expect a quiet stopover. They leave realizing they have found one of the most beautiful cities in Mexico. Puebla was founded by the Spanish in 1531, just a decade after the conquest of Tenochtitlan. Its historic center is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Nearly 5,000 colonial buildings still stand, many of their facades covered in the city's signature blue and white Talavera tile, a pottery tradition refined here for 500 years. Puebla is also the birthplace of mole poblano, the legendary Mexican sauce, dark and complex, said to contain more than 30 ingredients: cinnamon, almonds, chilies, chocolate. The legend tells of nuns at the convent of Santa Rosa scrambling to honor a visiting bishop, throwing every ingredient in the kitchen into one pot. What emerged became one of the most important dishes in the Mexican culinary tradition. But the true wonder of this region lies a 15-minute drive from Puebla's center. The town of Cholula does not look extraordinary at first. Cobblestone streets, a Spanish church on a hill. The hill itself is grass-covered, gentle enough that families picnic on its slopes. Except that the hill is not a hill. It is a pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Cholula. In Nahuatl, Tlaxiholtepetl, the man-made mountain. By volume, it is the largest pyramid ever built by human civilization, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, larger than any structure ever raised in ancient Egypt. Its base measures 450 meters on each side, roughly 4 times the area of the base of Giza. Its total volume has been measured at 4.45 million cubic meters. The Guinness Book of Records officially recognizes it as the largest pyramid in the world. It was built in stages, beginning around 300 years before the Common Era. Different civilizations added to it across more than 1,000 years. By the time the Spanish arrived in 1519, the pyramid had been abandoned and overgrown for so long that the conquistadors did not recognize it as a pyramid at all. They saw a hill, and on top of it, they built a church. Today, the small Catholic church of Nuestra Señora de los Remedios still stands at the summit. Inside the pyramid, a network of tunnels has been excavated, roughly 8 kilometers in total length. Some are open to visitors. The Great Pyramid of Cholula receives only a fraction of the visitors that Teotihuacan does. And yet it remains, by volume, the largest monument ever raised by any civilization in human history. But Mexico's secrets are not only horizontal, some stretch upward. To the southwest, a town of silver clings to the side of a mountain. Three hours southwest of Mexico City, the highway begins to climb again. The mountains rise, the road switches back on itself, again and again, climbing through pine forest. And then, suddenly, around a bend, the town appears. Taxco does not seem possible. White houses cascade down a steep mountainside, red-tiled roofs, cobblestone streets so steep that ordinary cars cannot climb them. The local taxis are all white Volkswagen Beetles, decades old, the only vehicles small and powerful enough to navigate the narrow lanes. The history of Taxco is in essence the history of silver. The Spanish discovered silver in the hills here in the early 16th century, just years after the conquest. By the 17th century, the mines of Taxco were among the most productive in the world. The wealth that flowed from this small town financed Spanish empire, traveled across the Atlantic, and reshaped the global economy. The visual proof of that wealth still rises at the heart of the town. The Church of Santa Prisca, completed in 1758, is one of the masterpieces of Spanish colonial Baroque architecture. It was funded by a single man, José de la Borda, a French-born miner who struck so much silver in the hills above Taxco that he gave a fortune to build a church. Its facade, carved from pink stone, glows in the late afternoon light. Its interior is covered in gold leaf. By the early 20th century, Taxco's mines had largely been exhausted. The town might have faded. Instead, in the 1920s, an American architect named William Spratling moved here and began designing silver jewelry, working with local artisans. He revived the craft. Within a decade, Taxco had become the silver capital of Mexico. Today, hundreds of silver workshops still operate in the town. Plata Taxco is recognized worldwide. Walking through the town is its own experience. The streets are too narrow for sidewalks. Cars and pedestrians share the cobblestones. The Beetle taxis honk their way past colonial doorways. Bougainvillea spills over white walls. From the highest streets, the view opens across the valley, all the way to distant mountains. There is no chain hotel in Taxco, no mall, no glass and steel anything. The town has been preserved almost exactly as it was a century ago. But Mexico's wonders are not all built. Some are written into the earth itself. 4 hours to the north of Mexico City, a canyon hides a river that pours, hot, from the mountain. In the dry hills of the state of Hidalgo, 4 hours north of Mexico City, a road winds down into a deep, narrow canyon. The cliffs rise steeply on both sides. At the bottom, something extraordinary happens. A river runs through the canyon. The river is turquoise, and the river is hot. This is Grutas de Tolantongo, a geothermal anomaly that has for centuries attracted pilgrims, healers, and now, slowly, the rest of the world. The water emerges from a cavern at the head of the canyon, where natural hot springs deep underground have heated the river for thousands of years. The water arrives at a comfortable 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. Mineral-rich, the river itself flows downstream, warm enough to soak in, all the way to the canyon's mouth. Above the river, on the cliff face hundreds of meters above the canyon floor, a series of small stone pools have been built. Each one is fed by warm spring water. Each one looks out over the canyon, the river, the green valley beyond. There are dozens of them, terraced into the cliff at different heights, like steps carved by water itself. Travelers call them the infinity pools of Tolantongo. From their edges, the world below disappears. The site has been operated for decades by a local ejido. An ejido is a form of communal land ownership unique to Mexico, established after the Mexican Revolution. The Tolantongo ejido has run the resort, the cabins and the trails as a collective enterprise. The people who work here are the people who own it. The system is unusual. It is one of the reasons the place has retained the feel of something untouched by global tourism. There is a cave at the head of the canyon as well, where you can walk into the warm darkness and feel the source of the hot water emerging from deep within the earth. There are tunnels carved by water through limestone, where rivers run underground. There is a tall, thin waterfall that drops into a turquoise pool you can swim through. For most of its history, Tolantongo was visited mainly by Mexican families. International discovery has been slow. Even today, Tolantongo remains far less known abroad than it deserves to be. To stand at the edge of one of the cliffside pools at sunset, with the warm water rising around you and the canyon glowing red in the last light, is to understand why some places do not need to be famous to be unforgettable. But there is one more wonder to see, the strangest of all. 2 hours west of Mexico City, millions of butterflies are returning home. Two hours west of Mexico City, a different kind of landscape begins. The pine forests deepen, the roads climb into the cool, high mountains of the state of Mexico, and, eventually, the road descends again to a lake. The town of Valle de Bravo wraps around its shore. Valle de Bravo is a destination in its own right, a weekend escape for Mexico City families, sailboats on the lake, small cafes in the colonial center, paragliders launching from the ridges above. But the true magic of this region happens in the forests above the town, and it happens only in winter. Every autumn, beginning in October, a quiet miracle unfolds across North America. Tens of millions of monarch butterflies, born in the United States and Canada, begin to fly south. They cross deserts, plains, and mountain ranges. They navigate using the sun's position and the Earth's magnetic field, mechanisms scientists are still working to fully understand. Their journey covers up to 3,000 miles, roughly 5,000 kilometers. And every one of them is heading for the same small region of central Mexico. When they arrive, in November, they cluster on the trunks and branches of the oyamel fir, a tree that grows only at high elevations in central Mexico. The microclimate is exactly right, cool but not freezing. Humid enough to keep the butterflies from drying out. They roost together by the hundreds of millions, hanging from the branches in clusters so heavy they bend the trees. UNESCO declared the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve a World Heritage Site in 2008. The reserve straddles the state of Mexico and Michoacán. Just a few hours from CDMX, there are several sanctuaries open to the public. El Rosario, Sierra Chincua, Piedra Herrada, the closest to Valle de Bravo. In the early morning, the butterflies are still, cold, motionless, hanging from the trees in such density that the trunks look bark orange. As the sun rises, the forest begins to warm, and then the first wings open. Slowly at first, then in a flood, hundreds of millions of butterflies lifting from the firs at once, filling the air with the soft, dry sound of wings. Visitors describe it as a sky raining upward. And the strangest thing of all is this: the butterflies that arrived in November are not the butterflies that left Canada. Most monarchs live only a month. The ones that fly to Mexico belong to what scientists call the super generation. They live up to 9 times longer. They carry, somehow, the inherited memory of a place they have never seen. The butterflies are part of the story of these mountains, and the mountains, in turn, are part of the story of the capital below. The wonders of the surroundings carry the weight of myth, but back inside Mexico City itself, the daily rhythm of life carries a weight just as old, and it begins every morning in the markets. In Mexico City, food is not a backdrop. It is the daily heartbeat of the capital. The mercados of CDMX are cathedrals of their own. Mercado de la Merced, in the historic center, is one of the largest traditional markets in the Americas. Walk its aisles and you walk past mountains of dried chiles, towers of cilantro, fresh masa being patted into tortillas by hand. Mercado Jamaica, just to the south, is the city's flower market. 20,000 square meters of roses, marigolds and lilies, restocked before dawn every morning. But the deepest pleasures of Mexican food are often the smallest. The taquerias of Coyoacán, where the meat hits the comal at sunrise. The street vendors of Roma, ladling pozole on a cold evening. Esquites, sold from carts in plastic cups. Corn kernels, lime, chile, mayonnaise, salty cheese. And then there is mole poblano, the dark sauce of Puebla, with its more than 30 ingredients. Mole verde, fresh and herbal. Mole negro from Oaxaca, deep as a moonless sky. Each one carries a recipe that has been passed through generations. The food of Mexico City was added to the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage in 2010, not as a tourist attraction, as a living tradition, a practice still happening every morning in every neighborhood, in every kitchen. But food is not the only thing this city is famous for. There is one more cathedral in Mexico City, made not of stone but of memory. In the southern borough of Coyoacán, set into the urban landscape almost casually, rises a structure that for much of the world is sacred ground. Estadio Azteca, renamed in recent years Estadio Banorte, but known to most by its original name and likely always will be, the Colossus of Santa Úrsula, the cathedral of Mexican football. The stadium was inaugurated in May of 1966. Designed by the Mexican architects Pedro Ramirez Vázquez and Rafael Mijares, with a cantilevered roof that allowed every seat in the house to see the field unobstructed. At its original capacity of more than 100,000, it became one of the largest stadiums in the world. In June of 1970, Mexico hosted the FIFA World Cup. The final was played here, at Estadio Azteca. Brazil defeated Italy 4-1, and the Brazilian captain raised the trophy in front of the world. That captain was Pelé. He was 29 years old. It was his third World Cup title, a record no one has matched since. "16 years later, in the summer of 1986, Mexico hosted the World Cup again. The final returned to Estadio Azteca, Argentina against West Germany. Argentina won, 3-2. But the moment that defined that tournament had come earlier, in the quarter-final between Argentina and England. The match took place here, on this field, on the 22nd of June, 1986. The Argentine captain scored 2 goals in the second half. The first, he scored with his hand, undetected by the referee. He later called it the hand of God. The second, 4 minutes later, came after he picked up the ball in his own half and dribbled past 5 English defenders before scoring. FIFA later voted it the goal of the century. The captain's name was Diego Armando Maradona. Two of the most legendary players in football history lifted World Cup trophies on this field. Pelé in 1970, Maradona in 1986. No other stadium in the world can claim both. And in 2026, Estadio Azteca becomes the only stadium in the history of the FIFA World Cup to host matches in 3 different tournaments. The opening match of the 2026 World Cup is played here, on home soil. The stadium has been extensively renovated. New screens, new pitch, new infrastructure. But the bones remain: the cantilevered roof, the steep concrete bowl, the acoustics that, when filled, generate the sound of thunder. There is no other stadium quite like it on Earth. The Azteca holds the memory of the past, but the city around it is already writing the next chapter, and it is doing it in places no guidebook has caught up with. The Mexico City of today is not the Mexico City of 20 years ago, and it will not be the Mexico City of 20 years from now. In Roma Norte, contemporary art galleries occupy buildings that were nearly abandoned after the 1985 earthquake. Casa Luis Barragan, the home and studio of one of the great architects of the 20th century, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Mexican modernism, born here, has shaped how architects think about color and light around the world. The food scene has transformed as well. Mexico City restaurants now appear regularly on lists of the best in the world. Chefs trained in Oaxaca, in Puebla, in Yucatan, are reinterpreting traditional Mexican cuisine for a new generation. The line between street food and fine dining is, in this city, beautifully blurred. But not all of the change has been welcomed. The arrival of remote workers and digital nomads in recent years has driven up rents in Roma and Condesa. Long-time residents have been priced out. The conversation about gentrification, about who the city is for, is unfolding in real time. The earthquake of September 2017, almost exactly 32 years after the 1985 quake, on the same date, was a reminder of the ground itself. The city held. Buildings fell, but the response of ordinary citizens, organizing in the streets to dig out survivors, became a defining moment for the modern capital. Mexico City, residents will tell you, is a city that knows how to rebuild. It always has been. The capital that the Mexica founded in 1325 has been buried, conquered, drained, shaken, flooded, and rebuilt more times than any city in the Americas. It carries 600 years of memory, and it still, every morning, wakes up. The volcanoes are still there. Popocatépetl still smokes occasionally on the southeastern horizon. The chinampas of Xochimilco are still farmed. The pyramids of Teotihuacan still rise in their valley to the northeast. The butterflies still return, every winter, to the forests above the lake. Mexico City is not finished. It never has been. It is a place that has been ending and beginning for 1,000 years. In the late afternoon, the light over the Valley of Mexico turns gold. The volcanoes catch the last sun, the same peaks the Aztec priests once climbed. Below them, the basin fills with the slow blue of evening. 22 million lives, the lights coming on along Reforma, the taquerias opening for the dinner crowd, the mercados closing their stalls, the cathedral in the Zócalo, sinking still, settling into the lakebed. The Templo Mayor, exposed beside it, lit from within, Aztec stone glowing under the modern lamps. The pyramids of Teotihuacan going dark on the high plateau, the pueblos mágicos in the surrounding valleys, the hot river of Tolantongo running through its canyon, warm against the cooling night air, the silver of Taxco settling into the cliff. And in the forests of Michoacán and the state of Mexico, the butterflies hanging from the oyamel firs in the cold, waiting for the morning, waiting to lift again toward the sun. This is the city that the Mexica built on a lake. This is the city the Spanish built on top of it. This is the city the modern republic built on top of them both. And these are the wonders that ring it: the pyramids, the rivers, the wings. This is Mexico City, and the world that surrounds it. A place that has been ending and beginning for 1,000 years. A place still doing both, tonight.